Question 21. A coin is thrown three times. What is the probability that at least one head is obtained? So now we know that if the coin is thrown three times, we know a coin only has two sides, head and tail. So the total possible number of outcomes would be 2 to the power 3 because it's thrown three times. That means we're expecting 8 outcomes. And so this is sample space showing the 8 possible outcomes. So you can either have head, 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 tail, head, and the rest outcomes. Now remember the question is asking us that what is the probability that at least one head is obtained? Now if you look at these 8 outcomes, there's only one outcome that there is no head at all. So that means that there's at least 7 out of the 8, and that is actually our, like I said, the number of times that at least one head is obtained, 7. So that means that therefore our probability is 7 over 8, and that is option A. Question 22 says we should find the equation of a straight line passing through the point 2, 3 and perpendicular to the line, this line. So the first thing we're going to do is that we're going to rewrite this line, right? I want y to be the suffix of the formula. So I take every other thing to this side. So they are positive here. When they go across the equals to sign, they become negative. And I divide through by 2 so that I have my y standing alone. So now I'm able to get this number. And this number is what? Exactly, your gradient. You know that the coefficient of x in an equation of a line is called the gradient. And why do I need these gradients? Now remember the question says something that the line we're looking for, the equation of the straight line we're looking for, right? It is perpendicular to this line that we already have. So our gradient here is minus 3 over 2. Now, if two lines are perpendicular, then the product of their gradients is negative 1. So let's call this first gradient as I already have m1. So to find m2, it is simply going to be minus 1 all over m1. So minus 1 all over this m1, which I already have to be negative 3 over 2, minus 1 all over negative 3 over 2 will be 2 over 3. The negatives cancel at each other, and then this is the reciprocal of 3 over 2, which becomes 2 over 3. So this is the gradient of the line that I'm looking for the equation. So now I know that the formula for the equation of a line is m equals to y minus y1 over x minus x1. This is when you are only given, one coordinate, right? So we're given the coordinates 2, 3. So we replace x, and we already found our gradient with 2 over 3. So 2 over 3 will be y minus 3 because that's the y coordinate, x minus 2 because that's the x coordinates. So that means that I will cross multiply 3 into y minus 3 becomes equals to 2 into x minus 2. And so we open the bracket, this becomes 3y minus 9. We take this to the other side, that becomes 3y equals to 2x plus minus 4 plus 9. And we know that 9 minus 4 is 5. So that means that this is 3y equals to 2x plus 5. And that is option D. Question 23 says we should differentiate this function. And the function is the square root of the cube root of x squared into 2x minus x squared. So this is the function. The first thing we'll do is that we rewrite this. We know that this can be written as x power 2 over 3. And then we open the brackets. So when you open the bracket, this 2x multiplies this. Since they have the same base, this is x to the power 1. 1 plus 2 over 3, this becomes 5 over 3. This 2 plus this 2 over 3, this becomes 8 over 3. Now to differentiate, you know that you multiply the power by the coefficient of x, and then you subtract 1 from the power. So that's what we're going to do. When you multiply 5 over 3 by x, by 2, sorry, you're going to get 10 all over 3, right? Hence this 10 over 3. When you subtract 1 from 5 over 3, you get your 2 over 3 back. And then when you multiply 8 over 3 by the coefficient of x here is 1, so that simply becomes 8 over 3. And then you subtract 1 from here, it becomes 5 over 3. So that means this is our answer, which is option B. Question 24 says we should calculate the mean deviation of the first 5 prime numbers. So the first thing we'll do is that we'll find the first five prime numbers. What are prime numbers? Prime numbers are simply numbers that can only be divided by 1 and themselves. So you see these are the first 5 prime numbers, 2, 3, 5, 7, and 11. I want to find the mean deviation. The mean deviation is simply the deviation of the mean from the values themselves, and that is this formula. So it's the summation of the deviation of the mean, this is the symbol for the mean, from the values themselves, and then we sum it up for all of them and divide by the total number that they are, in this case 5. So now n is 5, like I earlier mentioned. Now to find the mean, the mean is the summation of them all over how many they are. When you add everything, this becomes 28 all over 5, which is 5.6. So the mean deviation in this case now you can see this symbol I used here. This is what is called an absolute in mathematics. And what this means is that regardless of the sign that is inside here, when you are done with the operation, it has to come out negative. So that's why it is absolute. So for example, you see that when you do 2 minus 5.6, you actually get negative 3.6. But then when I'm writing it out here, it is positive. Why? Because I am using the absolute value. And if it is positive, it remains positive. So when you do the subtraction of all this, you get these numbers, add them, and you divide by 5. And our mean deviation will be 2.72, which is option A. Question 25 says we should determine the area bounded by y equals to 2x squared plus 10 and y equals to 4x plus 16. When you're asked for the area bounded by an equation, you know that integration has to come in. But then the first thing we're going to do is that we're going to find the intersection points for these two graphs. So we equate them together. And when we equate them together, we'll bring this 4x plus 16 over to this side. So it becomes like this. And then the equation is simplified to 2x squared minus 4x minus 6 equals to 0. And so we factorize, right? We can see that 2 is common to everything. So if I bring out 2, it becomes x squared minus 2x minus 3. And so when I factorize x squared minus 2x minus 3 again, I now get x plus 1 and x minus 3. And so since x plus 1 x minus 3 multiplied by 2 is 0, if I divide by 2 here, then that means x plus 1 x minus 3 simply equals to 0. And that means that x plus 1 is equals to 0 or x minus 3 is equals to 0, which means that x can be either negative 1 or 3. And so the next stage, which is the integration. Now we already found the 2 points, the points of intersection, which can be either negative 1 or 3. So our boundary will be between the lower side, which is minus 1 and 3. So I'm subtracting the equation here. Now you might ask, how do I know which of the equations to start with? Why didn't I say 2x squared plus 10 minus 4x plus 16? Now the thing is that it generally doesn't matter which one you put first. Because if, for example, I put 2x squared plus 10 first instead of 4x plus 16, what is just going to happen is that I will end up with a negative answer. But you know that area cannot be negative. So you simply find the absolute of that. So you get your answer. Since this is an objective exam, so for example, if I get minus 30 and 30 is in the option, so I know clearly that my answer is 30. So let's go on. So when I open these brackets, this becomes negative 2x squared, right, plus this 4x. And I know that 16 minus 10 becomes 6, right? So I integrate this. How do I integrate? I add 1 to the power and then I divide by the answer I get. So if I add 1 to 2, I get 3. So that's why this becomes x cubed divided by the 3. I add 1 to 1 here. That becomes 2. I divide by 2. 2 cancels 4 and this becomes 2x squared. And this is, if this does not even have any x to begin with, so I simply add an x to it when I'm integrating. And so it is between the bounds of negative 1 and 3. And so I put each of these numbers now into. So I put the bigger one first and then I subtract from the smaller one. And that looks something like this. So I put 3 into here. So that's what you're seeing here. And I put negative 1 into here. And then this is what you're seeing. And then I solve both of them. And I'm going to get this part to be 18. And I'm going to get inside here to be negative 10 over 3. But we know that minus minus is plus. So that becomes 18 plus 10 over 3. And that brings our answer to 64 over 3, which is option D. Question 26 says that we should find the value if 4 over 2 base y is equals to 102 base 10. So one thing we need to know is that when you are converting from any base, to base 10, you simply do the number times the base plus the number times the base, like you can see here, plus the number times the base, right? And then on the basis, you put increasing powers starting from 0, from right to left. So that's why you can see I put a 0 here, then a 1 here, then a 2 here. Now y squared times 4 will be 4y squared. 0 times anything is 0. And we know that anything to power 0 is 1. 1 times 2 will be 2. And all of this will be equal to 102. So I take 2 this way, and that becomes 100, right? Because 102 minus 2 becomes 100. And that means that 4y squared is equals to 100. I divide both sides by y, by 4, sorry, and that becomes y squared will be 100 over 4, which is 25. So to find y alone, I simply find the square root of 25, which is 5. And that is option C. Question 27 says we should find the value of y if log y plus 8 plus log y minus 8 is equals to 2 log 3 plus 2 log 5. So this is the question we are given. Now, one of the logarithmic laws says that if I have log AB, right? So if I have the log of a product of two, numbers, that is log AB, then it is equals to the log of one of such numbers plus the log of the second one. So basically this is like working backwards. So I have log A plus log B, so that means that it becomes log AB. So that's what I did here. Log Y plus 8 plus log Y minus 8 became simplified to simply log Y plus 8 Y minus 8, and this is equals to 2 log 3 plus 2 log 5. Now, when you open these brackets, y times y squared, y times minus 8y, plus 8 times y, 8y, plus 8 times minus 8, plus minus minus, so that becomes 64, right? So, and this now becomes equal. Now, this is another log rule, right? Now, when I have a coefficient in a log, that number can simply become the power in that log. So that's why 2 log 3 became log 3 squared and 2 log 5 became log 5 squared. And so when you simplify this, the 8y will take care of itself, leaving you with log y squared minus 64 is equals to log 3 squared plus log 5 squared. This now becomes simplified to 9 and 25 respectively. Right. Now, just like what we did here, you can see this is log 9 plus log 25, log a plus log b. So it becomes log 9 times 25, which is log 225. And so since these are both log, that means that this equates to this, right? I take 64 to this way. Y squared becomes 225 plus 64, which is 289. So y squared is 289. I know that the square root of a number is can actually positive or negative. For example, plus 17 times plus 17 will give you 289. Minus 17 times minus 17 will also actually give you 289, because like we mentioned earlier, minus times minus is plus. So that means that the answer in this case is option C. Question 28 says, in a group of 500 people, 350 people can speak English and 400 people can speak French. Find how many people can speak both languages. Now, I want you to take notice of something. The question says that there are 500 people. It says 300 people can speak English. It didn't say only, meaning that some of the people that are speaking English here can also speak French. And the same applies here. 400 people can speak French, meaning that some of these people that can speak French can also speak English. And the question is simply asking that we should find number of people that can speak both languages. And there is a formula to actually do that. Now, let's take F to be the set of people who can speak French and E the set of people who can speak English. Then that means that the number of French speakers 400, number of English speakers 350, and the number of F union E, right, will be 500, right? And so, but now what we're looking for is actually the number of F intersection E. That is those who are both French and English speakers. And there is a formula here which says that the number of F union E will simply be the number of F plus the number of E minus the number of F intersection E. So we'll put in our values here. So 500 becomes 400 plus 350 minus this. And so we simply make this the subject of the formula. This comes here and this becomes 750 minus 500, which is 250. Option C. Question 29 says we should factorize this function that we've been given. So the first thing we'll do is that we can see that this 16 is actually 2 to the power 4. So when we do that, both of them have 4. So we can simply take out the power 4 out and make this 2x all power 4 minus y to the power 4. But then we can simplify this further because we know that power 4 is simply power 2 twice. So we leave this as 2x squared all squared minus y2 all squared. And why did we do this, you ask? Now, there's something in mathematics called the difference of two squares, right? Meaning that if you are subtracting two numbers that are squared, then there is a way we do it. Using this, a squared minus b squared will be a minus b multiplied by a plus b, which is what we're trying to achieve here. So in this case, our a will be this 2x all squared, and then our b is this y squared inside here. So when you see that now this 2x all squared, which is our a, now features here as a, and then our y squared, which is b, features here as b, and the same thing for the positive side. And so using this same identity again, because you can see here that there's another negative, there's another difference of two squares here, right? So using another difference of two squared, this side now becomes, now this time our a is simply 2x, and our b is simply y, right? So this becomes 2x minus y, 2x plus y. But remember that this is positive, so that is remaining untouched. So that becomes, when you open this up again, it simply becomes 4x squared plus y squared, and then this remains like this. That is our answer, which is option A. And then question 30, we are given two sets A and another set B, and we're told to find A minus B and or A minus B union B minus A. Now, when we're finding A minus B, it simply means everything, you remove everything that is in B and is also in A, right? And then what is left of it? So we can see that the set B has the numbers 2, 4, 6, 8, right? Now the numbers 2, 4, 6 are also in A. So we are done removing that. The set that is left is 1, 3, 5. Hence this answer. Now the opposite, the reverse is the case for B minus A. Now B minus A means what is in A and also in B. Let's remove that and leave what's left. Now in this case, like we mentioned earlier, 2, 4, 6 is common to both of them. So what is only left for B will be 8. And then the question asks for the union of these two, that is A minus B union B minus A, which is simply these two in one set. And so that becomes 1, 3, 5, 8, which is option A.